Hi everyone. Figured I'd start this off with some introductions because I'm sure 100% of you don't know who I am. I'm the lucky man who is married to the beautiful, the talented Jessica V, which I'm sure you guys know is going to be famous pretty soon. So here she is right over here. That's Jessica V. Many of you know her from her blog and her YouTube channel, which is Purple Puppy Papercrafting Company. Is that correct?
Purple Puppy Papercrafting.
There you go, Purple Puppy Papercrafting. A little bit of a tongue twister, but y'all know, you guys have seen the channel and watched the videos. So she has put me to the challenge today to make a card, which I've decided to make a card for my son's birthday. It's here on the 28th. I wanted to do a Halloween theme. As you can see, I'm rocking the nice Freddy Krueger and Jason shirt today for this card making process. So I'm gonna have her get me set up on the camera and here we go. Okay, so many of you don't know, but I am a professional paper crafter. Been doing it for about 20 years now. And I figured with her challenge today, I would go ahead and bring my skills to the table. Actually, no, that's a total lie. I've never done this in my life and I have no idea what I'm doing. So she is gonna be helping me through this process. We decided first we're gonna start with the stamps and the coloring. So like I said, I wanna do a Halloween card. I have chosen to do the Kindred stamps horror collection here. My son, being born on the 28th of October, is a huge horror fan, loves the movies, and he's going to be 9 years old for this birthday. Pennywise scares the crap out of him, so we're going to go ahead and use that as a focus for this card. And along with that stamp set, we're also going to be using the Brutus Monroe Detail Ink Raven. This is also Brutus Monroe. I like the cool zombie hand and the grave, so that might be something I use in this card. But, all right, so I'm gonna grab my handy dandy Misty stamping tool here, which I think I know how to use now from a little guidance, but not 100% sure. We're gonna try it out and see what happens. And it is a little sticky in there, isn't it? Okay, so first we're gonna go ahead and do all my cool little horror guys that I want to put into this card. So we're gonna start with Pennywise. Everyone loves clowns. So we're gonna go ahead and put him up here. This cool little gravestone here. And we're gonna use this cool zombie hand coming out of the ground. Okay, so I think that's a good start. We're gonna go ahead and roll with that and see what happens. So I'm gonna take my Brutus Monroe Detail Ink Raven. I'm gonna fold this over to suck up my stamps on there. And it pulled the whole card out, which I was warned about. So I'm just gonna put it back in there. And I'm gonna start stamping. So here we go, putting the ink on there. And this is probably gonna be the easiest part of this card that I do. But we'll see. Now what's the chances that this is all gonna come out in one push? Let's find out. I'm hoping it does. Ah, pretty close. Okay, so we need to get a little more on Jason here. Beautimous. All right. So now I have all my stamps ready to go. So I think the next thing I want to do is do some coloring on these. Okay, so I decided to do Freddy Krueger first, and these are the Copics markers that I've selected to color him in. So we're gonna go ahead and get started on that. I think I'm just gonna start with the easiest area, which is probably gonna be the brown hat. Since I've never used this marker before, I'm kind of curious to see how it's going to work. I'm used to doing more coloring pencils than anything, but I like the fine tip point on this. You can really get in there to the edges and corners. And I think that we have a cutting machine that if I go outside the lines, it would cut that off anyways. This is really a dark brown, which is pretty much what his hat looks like. And the neat thing about this marker too is not only do you have the fine point, which I was just using, but for bigger, thicker areas, you have a more wider section. It almost gives it some texture too. I like that. Okay, now let's get the brim. These are nice to work with. Okay, now underneath the hat, I want to go ahead and just make it a little bit darker so it has more shading to it. Just to make the rest of it stand out a little bit more. So we're going to go over that a little bit thicker. Okay, and there's his hat. Step one done. We're going to go ahead and use this YR00 to do the fleshy part of his face. So I know my wife spends hours up here card making and doing all this, and I never really realized what was all involved in that until I'm sitting here trying to do it myself. And I realize how not an easy process this can be. But I also see how she can get a lot of enjoyment out of it, as I'm sure many of you do out there in the paper crafting world. And if any of you are horror fans out there, you know that he wore a red and green sweater that was pretty beat up from all the, you know, slashing and bashing that he's been doing. So the red's in. Now let's go ahead and do the green. I chose a real dirty looking green because his sweater always looks real nasty. That's pretty good if I do say so myself. So there's my first colored stamp ever. Okay, time to color in Jason, and still rolling with the Copics markers. He's kind of like a grayish color. If any of you are horror fans out there, you know that he drowned, so his skin picked up like a weird gray tone to it. Tell you what, I've always been a colored pencil person, but working with these Copics markers is kind of nice. I picked this very light gray C3 to do the machete blade, just to give it that metallic metal look. And I'm going to add in some red, because he just someone. All right. Jason is almost done. And there is Jason. Look out, y'all. It's coming for you. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish the rest of the coloring on this. These are the Copic markers I'm gonna use for Pennywise, the Grave, and the Zombie Hand. So we're gonna go ahead and get started on Pennywise first. And he's got like a funky orange colored hair. So we'll go ahead and... Not a whole lot of color is gonna go in the Pennywise. He's mostly white. He's got a red nose. Ooh, that's a really dark red. Darker than I really wanted to use. Okay, so I switched up for the red because I couldn't find on the fly the correct color I was looking for in the Copics. And this is, I'm asking my assistant.
Studio 71.
This is a Studio 71 alcohol marker. R12 is what I use, which is poppy red. I think it was a good color for that. And the balloon we all know is a red balloon, because they all float down here. His outfit is kind of like a weird grayish color. So I'm gonna throw some of this on it. Okay, and then I'm gonna attempt to freehand something here. Not the greatest. I may end up redoing this Pennywise just for my own sanity's sake. But for now, let's just go ahead and move on. We're gonna do the zombie hand and the gravestone. We're gonna do a little bit of a darker on the outside of the gravestone, just to give some contrast. Happy with that. And the zombie hand, I picked kind of like a light greenish color. So here is the first Pennywise I did, which I was not happy with the way it came out at all. Didn't like the hair color, the way the eye streaks thing came out, even the outfit a little bit. So here is the new one, the new hair color. And I actually went to a coloring pencil to draw in the more fine eye redness, whatever you want to call that. And these are the markers that I used instead. Changed up the orange for the hair, and also the red, because on the first one, if you remember, I put too dark of red on the nose, so I wanted to change that up. So I think we're ready to go to the cut machine, the Brother Cut and Scan, I believe it is, right?
Scan and cut.
Okay, never mind, it's the Scan and Cut. We're gonna go ahead and cut these out, and then I'm gonna get my card base laid out so I can see what kind of room I have to work with and decide if I want to go ahead and add anything extra into the scenery of my card. So we'll be back shortly. Okay, so we went ahead and scan and cut our characters out, so they're all here ready to go. And I decided to go with a starry kind of looking background with a little bit of a grass kind of hill that the characters will be standing on. So we went ahead and die cut the grassy hill out, and we're getting ready to emboss this little witchy thing with the moon up into the starry sky. So that's going to be our step now that we're going to do. Let me go ahead and push all this stuff to the side. Okay, so we're about to do some heat embossing. I have my witch and moon pretty much set up where I want it to be, so I'm going to go ahead and get it stuck on my Misty. I'm going to pull her up, and the paper sticks. Okay, so we're going to be using the Brutus Monroe embossing ink clear, and also we're going to use the Icicle embossing ink, which is also by Brutus Monroe. So here is my little magic bag of static free dust stuffy that I'm going to put all over here. And we're going to take some of the embossing ink, and we're going to go ahead and put it all over the witch and moon. And then we're going to go ahead and get her on the paper here. Okay, I can see it pretty good. So now we're gonna go ahead and take a handy dandy coffee filter. And we're just gonna go ahead and tap this powder onto the card. And the reason we use the coffee filter is so we don't lose any of our embossing powder. So get a nice layer on there. And we're just gonna tap it off. And look at that effect you get. How fantastic is that? Okay. Okay, so we went ahead and heat embossed it, and look at that shimmery effect you get on that witch. Pretty cool stuff. I'm about to go ahead and color in the moon area just to make it stand out and pop a little bit more. And for this background, we decided the coloring pencil is probably going to be our best option here. By the way, folks, that heat embossing tool is pretty cool. I was afraid of burning myself on it though. Thing gets really hot. Okay, and there's our little bit of a moon effect in the background, just to help it stand out. That came out pretty good. So we have this grass here that we die cut out. It's gonna go down here. And that's gonna be my next step. I'm gonna start adhering all my little people. I think I've decided to save Pennywise for the inside of the card, and if at all possible, we're going to try to figure out a way to kind of make him, when you open the card, spring up a little bit. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to go ahead and give it a try. Okay, so I decided to use this red sparkly background as just a border to put my starry sky in. So I'm going to work on getting that lined up. My wife also told me that liquid glue is a little more forgiving than her tape runners. So, being the fact that I don't know what I'm doing and I want to make sure I get it on there right, I'm going to go ahead and use the liquid glue. Maybe. I guess I got to take the cap off first. Oops.
You're good.
Okay. So I'm not,
Oh,
whoa.
there's a stink bug.
And it's landed on me. Side up with the witch. And try to get this as center as possible. That's good enough for me. Now, back in the old days, I'd just take a big heavy dictionary and stick it on top of here until the glue dried. But we don't have time for that today. We're moving on. So next, I'm gonna go ahead and put the grass in, our little grassy hill. And again, we're using the Lawn Fawn liquid glue. So this part will be tricky. Let's just go ahead and put it on there and then move it a little bit. Ah, it's like I've been doing this for years. Jeez. I'll start my own YouTube channel and blog. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna put some pressure on this for a few minutes just to make sure that this background is sticking to this sparkly paper, and I'll be back with you guys. Okay, so it looks like the glue held better after I held it down for a while with my Misty tool. Figured that was as good a thing as any to stick on top of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with, I think the tombstone is gonna be the first thing I put on here. And that looks like a good spot. So we're gonna go ahead and put the zombie hand in, and I think what I wanna do with that is I wanna give it a little bit of a raised look to make it pop out in front of the tombstone, just to give it that nice effect. So I'm going to use these foam dots here, scrapbook adhesives, We're gonna put a couple of these small ones on here. I don't know that my finger's gonna be small enough to peel them off. We're gonna see what happens. Let's see what kind of effect we get out of this. These are gonna be the little bit of a thicker foam dot. I want the hand to stick out, I think, more than anything that I put on. Okay, let's see. There we go. So it just adds a little dimension, little 3D look when you look at it. That way you know it's out in front of the tombstone. So next we're gonna get our Freddy and Jason on here. And I think I'm also gonna give them a little bit of a 3D look. I'm gonna go with a little bit of a smaller, not quite as thick foam pad here. And let's get him situated on there. That looks like a good spot to me. All right, so there is the beginning of the front of the card. I'm gonna add my sentiment up here, and I'm also gonna make a couple little finishing touches on it once we're done with the sentiment. Okay, everyone, so getting the sentiment ready for my card. Got the Misty tool out, got it kind of laid out where I want it. There's gonna be something in between here too, but we are going to try to do it in red and heat emboss it so that it stands out. But for now, I'm gonna try to do this in white. I'm gonna use the Brutus Monroe pigment ink, Alabaster. And we're gonna just try to stamp this directly on to the card without any kind of background. And we'll see how it turns out. Hopefully good, because I don't want to redo all this. Oh yeah, that came out good. Okay, I was kind of worried about that part. I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, but I think that'll work. Okay, so far, this is my first ever card. I gotta admit, I'm kind of happy with it so far. I think we're done with the Misty for now. So we're gonna put that away. And we're gonna work on trying to emboss this bloody. So it's gonna say, have a bloody good birthday. And I want the bloody in red. So.
Yep. Use your magic powder bag.
Okay, so I'm going to break out, again, the magic powder bag. We're gonna put that all around on this. I don't know if you can see. Hold on, let me get my work area here. On this white cardstock. I think that should be enough. And we are going to use this embossing ink, Brutus Monroe. I think we're good. So, again, we're going to use some of this embossing powder. This is going to be red. Hopefully this will really pop. And got our coffee filter. Okay. There we go. So that came out pretty cool. Okay, off to the heat gun. So we heat embossed Bloody, which came out really cool. And I fussy cut it out. so that I can go ahead and attach it to the card. And I decided for this, I'm gonna go ahead and use the foam stick outs again, because I think that's a pretty cool effect. So we're gonna attach two of these, maybe attach two of these little foam risers on here, just to make it stand out even more. I had some ideas that I wanted to do on the card. I thought about heat embossing some bats up here and a couple other ideas, but we end up sticking with just the sentiment, which I think is a good idea, because we have a different sentiment that we decided we're going to use for the inside. Okay. I think that looks good enough. So check that out. Picks up the light with that heat embossing. Brutus Monroe hooking up the embossing ink. Loving it. Cool. So the outside of the card is almost finished. I'm going to add a couple little finishing touches, but I'm going to do that at the very end of the card making process. So we're going to go ahead and work now on the inside of the card and attaching this to the front of the folded cardstock. But first, let's get things set up inside with our fun little guy here, little Pennywise the Clown, and the other sentiment that I want to go ahead and stamp inside of there. So since this is for my son and it's his birthday, I've decided to do the, where is it at? The other, oh, there it is. I knew I had it around here somewhere. Okay. So again, since it's my son and it's his birthday, I thought this would be really cool on the inside of the card. And I'm gonna go ahead and do it also in the white ink. So let me get my Misty tool out. Well, my wife's Misty tool out. Listen to me, it's like I'm taking over this job. And helps if I put it the right way. Not that it matters, I don't think, but okay, so we're gonna want it here. Okay, I think that'll work. I just gotta find my white ink. Here it is, the Alabaster. This is a pretty spongy ink, so you gotta kind of go light with it. Which I think I might have went too heavy. So let's go a little bit lighter with the stamp of it. Boom. I love you to pieces. It's a great thing to have on the inside of a card. My son's a horror nut, but so am I. I love horror movies. My wife and I both. So this card is actually a lot of fun for us. Okay, so that's going to be on the inside. I am done with this. So as always, clean up your stamps. You don't want dirty stamps when you go to do your next one. And yeah, let's gonna spray it with some Squeaky Clean by Brutus Monroe. Smells like pumpkin. Stuff's nice. This is great. Okay. By the way, y'all, you can't see what's going on, but my wife has been a fantastic assistant to me today. She's helped me along with all of this. Couldn't do it without her. Okay, so got the front of the card attached to the cardstock. So have a bloody good birthday. Got Jason and Freddy and the zombie hand, the witch, the tombstone. Open it up. I love you to pieces. And we're about to add Pennywise with a flare though. We have this stuff, it's called Action Wobblers. So we're gonna attach this on here, and when you open the card, he's gonna pop up out at you, kind of give you a scare. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attach him to the wobbler. So I just had to peel off the adhesive here, and we're gonna we'll just stick it right to his head. That's the biggest part of his body. Okay, now that he's adhered on there, we can take this bottom sticky off. And one thing I lack, paper crafting world, is fingernails. This is not easy to peel some of this. Okay, so how do I want him to look when he pops out? I think right about there would be good. Huh? I think he went a little sideways, but that'll be okay for the purpose of this card. So when you open it, boom, Pennywise pops out at you. Pretty nifty. So that's a pretty neat effect. I have a heck of a time getting this in an envelope. But and he wobbles around like he's floating. Okay, so just a couple finishing touches I want to put on the card. My wife said it's important that you sign the back of your cards. So we're gonna go ahead and put my initials back here. And we'll put 19. Okay, so the final touches I want to put on this card tonight is I want to use this Nuvo glitter drops, which adds dimension details to craft projects. So what I wanted to do is add a little bit of some standout stars in the sky in the background. So we're just going to go ahead and dab some of these on there. Just add a little more dimension, a little more pizzazz, excitement. That's not good. Okay, so I had a little bit of a runner here. I'm just gonna take a piece of card, scrape that up, boom. Gotta sometimes fix things on the fly. So that's it. That's my card for y'all. Hope you guys enjoyed watching me. I actually had a lot of fun doing this. It was nice spending the day with my wife, kind of playing in her realm of things, which is the paper crafting world. Again, I've never done anything like this before. This is my first card creation, and do me a favor, go ahead and click like and subscribe. Help my wife out with the purple puppy paper crafting. That is her baby. So follow her blog, follow her on YouTube, and who knows, maybe one day you'll see me make another card. Thanks everyone, have a good night.